Welcome back to Showtime on Trust TV. Today we're sitting with a storyteller who doesn't just write scripts, he rewrites narratives. He's a filmmaker, a writer, and creative force reshaping how young Africans tell their truth. From documenting life in rural Nigeria to co-directing bold, socially charged documentaries, he's proof that young voices aren't just loud. They are very powerful, deliberate, and here to stay. Please welcome the visionary, the one and only Michael Chineme Ike. Hello, Michael.
Hello, good afternoon.
How are you doing?
I'm good. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a very wonderful place.
It's a pleasure to have you here with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to go straight into it because of lack of time. We know that you do a lot of things. You wear many hats. You are a filmmaker. You are an author. You are a documentary producer. You are an entrepreneur. You are a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I'd like to ask personally, which of these things feels like the real you? And has that, changed over the years? Maybe that's why you keep changing into different aspects of life. Let's hear you.
Okay, let's just say that I've always been someone that loves to tell stories. I think my nickname is Young Author, and it's been a problem changing that Young Author because people keep asking, you're no longer young now, so when would you change? So I've always been a writer from a young age. I was even in primary school when I started writing, and so eventually you discover that people don't really read. Nigeria, basically, we don't read.
Yeah.
So luckily I went to the university and I studied theater and film. So I kind of switched, I'm still telling stories, but now on screen. And it's now more visible, like people get to see it. Because I always love to tell stories about my environment. But then along the line, I think I fell in love with documentary filmmaking because I just felt like, everybody is telling fiction, we are all, making up stories. But at the end of the day, we have to address societal issues. I think at first I tried to do films that are, addressing those issues. Like there's a film I did, Hustler, which was about internet fraud, in Nigeria. So I did that. In fact, we featured American actors, and we even brought them to Nigeria for the premiere. So, but then along there, I just felt like I need to do documentaries, even though I know documentaries are not really like money-making ventures, but it helps me to like touch those core issues, and when people watch it, they will see that this is real. This one is no longer a story.
Fiction.
They hear from people that have been affected. They just feel like, so let's just say that my niche is, I just want to, I told myself that before I turn 30, I'll win an Emmy for a documentary. Oh
my God, that is amazing.
So I want to be known as long as Nigeria is concerned, I want to be known as one of the top documentary filmmakers. And
that is amazing.
So that's one of the things I'm aiming for.
That is wonderful. Congratulations first in advance.
Amen. Yeah,
because we're going to come back to the studio.
This is the first studio. This is the first studio I will come after winning the Emmy.
Thank you. We're going to come and I'll hold the award for you.
It's a record. Don't worry. Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about your recent documentary. Is that your first documentary or is it your second?
Oh no, I don't know. Let's just say it's my third.
Okay.
My first documentary is Mike Ejara, the one that recently died, So because I've looked at it and I discovered that in Africa, basically, we love to celebrate our heroes when they die.
Yes.
So when they are alive, nothing happens. But the moment they die, they rename streets after them, airports, everything. And this was a man that we all, in fact, almost everybody, especially if you're from the Igbo part, we all grew up listening to his music. So when we found out that because of how it was, things were just silent, we thought that the man was dead. Sorry. But when we found out that he was alive, it was kind of, I was like, really, somebody like this is alive and almost forgotten. So that was why I decided to do the documentary. I started that documentary before the trend with Brain Jotter. I started, I think 2021. That was when we started the documentary. But it's a beautiful thing that Brain Jotter did what it did because it helped to push through some limelight. So we did the screening last year, December. There were many things that could have happened that we wouldn't do, but my man was telling me, do this thing. We want to celebrate this man when he was alive. Thank God we did it, and a few months later he died. So I just felt, we'll give him that honor. So that was the first documentary I did. Then I also did a documentary on environmental pollution, like recycling waste bin in Ghana. A friend of mine owned a recycling bin. I just wanted to talk about how this helps our environment. So then Flow with Pride. Let's say Flow with Pride is the second because at least it came out. The other one is not out yet.
Oh, it's not out. Is there any date in mind?
Oh yeah, well that will just be for YouTube. It's a short documentary, so there won't be any big celebration. So YouTube, maybe United Nations events, you know, film festivals. Yeah, before Flow with Pride, which was about menstrual health, period poverty in Nigeria. So yeah, that's my second documentary. Yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to Flow with Pride, first of all, when I saw the title, I was like, wow. The title is very poetic, it's very beautiful, and it sounds deeply personal. Yeah. So now I'd like to ask, what was the reason why you decided to tell the story and give it that particular title? What did it pull out of you that forced you to go into this?
Okay, so aside from being a filmmaker, like you said, I wear many hats, and that's true. So I have a foundation. Just basically an NGO that I try to use to, you know, like there was a time that there's a certain girl from Benin that was raped. Can't remember the name. I had to gather young people in Oka. I was in Oka then, and we did a protest. So we always tried to raise our voice. Right from 2016, I was already organizing talent festivals, you know, for young people and everything. So we've been doing this, and then just like every other organization, so every May 28th, which is World Menstrual Hygiene Day, we'll buy pads to share. But something always happens. It does not matter if you like carry trailers of pads. When you go to school, it's never enough. In fact, 2023, I think that was when we went to a school, an all-girls school, to share pads. We went to thousands of pads, but when we got there, the number we saw, we couldn't even share it. We just had to give it to the school and say they should, because it will not look good that you share it and some people don't get it. So now, as a visionary, someone that always think of like, what can I do about this problem? I was thinking, you know, like this thing doesn't solve this problem, and we are literally in the capital city. So if this is a problem, how do we, like, how about people that are even in the villages? So that was what led us to this was supposed to be a small documentary. We just wanted to like just capture the stories. But when we started, it became personal, because the stories we heard, I always say this in every interview, like we just drove, when we went to Ebonyi State, we drove just 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes from the capital city. And we're in a community where it was like you have been drawn back, you know, like 30 or 50 years back, where young girls, you know, it's a normal thing for a young girl to not go to school and just give birth and everything. So these are the things we found out, and oh no, I was like, nah, this is not it. So that was basically what pushed us to do the documentary, and I'm glad we did, because it has raised a lot of conversations, and I believe that with more efforts. Now, the title, Flow with Pride, because it was simply, whenever we go to do this, especially as a man, these people, they just feel shy. The menstruation topic is something that it's shrouded in secrecy. So I just felt like I was just kind of saying to the young girls, you know, flow with pride. This is not a problem. This is not your fault. It's not your fault that this is happening, and it's not a bad thing. So when this is happening, be proud. You know, raise your head high. Don't feel shy or feel anything. And the Flow with Pride thing is something that, because eventually we had to now create an impact hub with, like, we wanted to, because we just treated pure poverty in our documentary, which is not being able to afford pad. But there are things like pure education, because in the documentary, so many people that they don't even know what it is. Those children, they don't even understand what it is. We're also talking about PCOS. This is, it's a funny thing that as a young man, I know these things.
No, it is a good thing.
So basically, so, but these are things I found out, that even there are people that they have this issue with their period. They, you know, the blood keeps flowing for months. Some of them, you will not even see your period. You're not pregnant. It's just all these irregularities and everything. Sometimes it's not like there's no infection. It's just this, you know, the PCOS or whatever. So these are some of the things we want to start working on, you know, maybe through education, through support, and some other things. So yeah, that's basically why we chose that Flow with Pride, so that it can encompass all the whole things that has to do with this menstruation and the problems with it and all of that. So,
okay, that is very beautiful. That is quite a journey, and it is amazing. Again, thank you for doing this. My next question is, we know that, just like you said, you mentioned it, that you're a guy.
Yes.
Period poverty is not something that is, I would say, trendy with not just male Nigerian filmmakers, but also male philanthropists, you know, certain NGOs that are not being led by women. I'd like to ask, what was the most emotional thing that you recorded, or that you shot, or you saw on field during the making of this documentary?
Okay, well, even in the documentary, there is a part where you are probably going to cry. And that is the part when we asked those girls in Ebonyi State. Okay, so when you see your, do you know what pad is? Some of them said no. Can you afford to buy pad? Sorry, do you use pad? They don't even know what it is. So we now ask them, so what do you do? Like, what do you use when you have your period? Luckily, one of them was even prepared. She put her hand in the pocket, brought out a piece of a nylon, opened it, and it was like a piece of clothes. And like this cloth is like this silk, just silk cloth, and just one. And you can already see on it like this map of blood on it. And she was like, this is what she, oh God, I don't know how I felt. It was something else. And then the girl beside her, we asked her, so how about you? He said that she actually just washes it off. In fact, that one, we didn't put it in the documentary, but her parent was just so irresponsible. Like, we were doing the interview and the parent was just walking around chewing gum and everything. So this young girl does not even have anything. So she said that sometimes she uses, when she goes to school, she uses pieces of exercise books when she's going to her period, or she just have to go home and wash. And it was, I can't even imagine my sisters or my daughters going through something like that. And that's why I had to just like be fully involved, because I want men to understand that this is not just a female problem. It affects everybody. And I can even try to imagine the amount of infection this young girl will like encounter with this problem. Yeah, but that was just it. It was very emotional for me. Yeah.
Oh my God, I can already feel it from here.
Yeah,
during the course of this documentary, was that the first time you heard these stories, or was it when you were going ahead to share the pads to the schools, and was that when you started hearing the stories, or this was the first time?
This was the first time, basically. For us, we were, because when we do this thing, because we see others are doing it, so how can we support young people? We're already doing talent festival, we already come out to do protests and all of that. So now we now know that there is these people, some of them cannot afford to buy pads, so we just, okay, let's support them with pads. But the fact that it was no longer enough, so we now wanted, let us even go down there and see how these people are even managing. We went with pad, went there, but then I was not hearing stories that when I'm like, wait, seriously? Is this, that? And it was, I was like, no, this one is too much.
Oh my God. What was your initial reaction? I know you've just done something, but what was your initial reaction when you heard what was the very first story you heard, and what was your initial reaction?
Yeah, so the first place we went was at Ebonyi. Yeah. That was the first place. So the first story, in fact, we went first of all and we shot a scene with students. There was an NGO owned by this Uzodimma, a young girl in Ebonyi State. She's doing well. She has an NGO and she makes reusable pad for the girls, which she gives out mostly free. So we actually worked with her for that community. So we went there, first of all, we went to the school to capture them teaching the students. And the first thing was when students were called up, what is menstruation? They don't know what it is. These are students, some of them are probably like in SS3. And I'm like, wow, seriously, like it was funny, but I just felt, oh, maybe in the village, maybe they're not taught very well. Second shock was when we interviewed the teacher, and the teacher was asked, why are these people not taught about this? And the teacher, her excuse was that the teachers that teach science are men. So that the female teach language courses like English, Igbo. So the male cannot be talking about this because they will be feeling shy. It was another shock. I was like, seriously? Then we now went to interview the girls, and when they brought no, that one was, I was like, this is too much. Yeah.
This has been such a handful, but we're going to go on a quick break right now. When we return, the conversation will continue. Hello, welcome back to Showtime on Trust TV. I am still in the studio here with Michael Chineme Ike, and we've been talking about his documentary, Flow with Pride. So, Chineme, you're known for mentoring young creatives, especially in Nigeria. What would you say, if they were actually right here with you now, what would you say to young men? Not just generally now, but to the young men who are afraid of telling uncomfortable stories, maybe through documentary or fiction. What would you say to them?
Well, I did it, so anybody can do it, and it was actually a very blissful experience because I got a lot of accolades. Like people were like, you're a guy, and you did this. Like, so people were like, this is so nice, and then it encouraged a lot of people to start speaking up. Like the day we did the screening here in Abuja, it was a very wonderful event. Like people were saying, "Oh, this," they were like, "This is so nice. Please, when is it coming out? People need to watch it." They were telling they were calling me from different villages, schools, like, "Please, we need to come and show this to the students." So I just felt like if this could be like this was not really planned. It was supposed to be a small something. But if it could be like this, imagine when we actually sit down to look at this problem that girls face and start making films, making projects about. I think people need to understand something. Now, we have a lot of people that are on social media creating all kinds of content, but nobody is creating about this kind of content. And it's something I would encourage people to do. You don't need to be a full-time filmmaker because it has to do with hiring cameras, crews, and everything. You can use your phone and do something. You can, now people go on the street, do interviews, and then you're asking silly questions. When was the last time you did it? What kind of question is that? Why not call young girls and ask them, how do you handle your period or stuff like that? These are some of the things you can do that are raw content that people would relate to. If you do it, you now see the comments will be very, very empowering because people will be able to tell their story. This is what they go through. So yeah, so I want to encourage people, especially content creators, because most people don't even have the patience to go and watch these documentaries, but they have the patience to watch short content on TikTok, on Instagram Reels and everything. So yeah, I'd love them to do more about this problem, not just menstrual this thing. There are a lot of other issues, a lot of very, very uncomfortable, like you called it, that we can start talking about. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm glad that you talked about the fact that, filmmaking is very difficult because of all the things involved in doing it. So, but I would like to ask you now, for indie creatives who are actually into documentary filmmaking but are having drawbacks in terms of, funding, support, and all of that, and they also want to tell certain stories that are not being told.
Yes.
What would you advise them to do in terms of getting support, funds, collaboration, partnerships, and all of that?
Okay, well, so it's tough out there, especially for entertainment, but then it's also like, I always tell people you can actually start small. Documentary is not a money-making venture. It's not something that people rush like that. But I believe that when you do a good project, you can do a documentary that probably will not go to Netflix, but the documentary can take you around the world. In fact, when we finish this documentary, it was slated to screen at the United Nations conference. That's the last CWS women conference that was held in New York. Yes, it was slated to premiere there. The only problem was that because during a side event, so the organizers, there was one or two issues, so I kind of put it on hold. Yeah, but these are the kind of, imagine it's playing in the US, my documentary in the United Nations conference. You get to travel, you get to meet people. These are the kind of thing that, some of these organizations would look at and be like, oh, please, want to use your documentary to train some people, like stuff like that. So it could literally take you to places.
That's beautiful. Unfortunately, because of time, we're wrapping up. So what is next for Michael Chineme? What is the next thing in line for you now? Okay,
so basically I have a feature film, Stranded, that will soon be out. Well, it's ready, but we are kind of negotiating with a streaming platform. It's a 2-character film, 1 location, 1 night. So I'm going to be watching just 2 people for 1 hour, 30 minutes. Yeah, so it's not a Nigerian kind of story, but I love taking challenges. So if you watch I think Malcolm and Mary on Netflix, that's the kind of film it is. So that's one. It will soon be out. Then I'm working on another documentary, which I don't want to talk about, but it's something that it's kind of security conscious. But the documentary is going to shake a lot of this thing, because let's just say that we have a lot of young people now that think that they don't need to work hard to make money. So, yeah. So, so I'm working on something that involves some very, very high people and some very, very low people. We're going to expose a lot of things, and some people will not be happy. Maybe some people that know me, but we have to say it. We just have to call a spade a spade. So yeah. That's it. That's just all I can say.
Okay, that's amazing. We'll be waiting on that. Honestly, we will. Thank you very much for coming to the studio today. It's been an honor. It's been wonderful.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me.
This has been Showtime on Trust TV. And of course, you've seen how insightful and inspiring this episode is. Do not miss our next episodes. Join us again next week for a more insightful and interesting episode. My name is still Chimelli.